In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut an halter neck waistcoat. So to start, here is my pattern paper and I'll be cutting this in a miniature form because it's in form of an illustration. So here is my button allowance. You can use 1 inch for your button allowance or 1.5. From that point, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist and blouse length. I added 7 inches for my blouse length. Now I'll mark the shoulder divided by 2. After that, I'll come down by 1 inch. Now I'll go ahead to mark out a basic neckline of 3 inches here, which will serve as a guide. Note, I'm not using my actual measurement on this pattern. The next step is to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. And whatever I have, I marked it as my chest line. So go ahead to mark back your shoulder divided by 2 on the chest line area and place your ruler to connect. Now, after connecting at this point, I'm going to divide what I have at the armhole area into 2 equal parts, and I will come out by ½ inch. So after coming out by ½ inch here, I'll place my tape. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll place my ruler, connect this all the way to the upper part, and from the midpoint I'll connect it to my bust circumference divided by 4. Now after I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to mark my darts. And to mark my darts, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my actual nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So mark it and draw out a straight line. For the dart intake, if you're on the smaller size, mark ½ inch here. If you're on the plus size, mark 1 inch. On this side, if you're on the smaller size, mark 1.5. If you're on the plus size, mark 2 inches on this side. That is this side that I'm marking now. Now connect from the bust to the under bust on both sides. So from the midpoint of your armhole, connect to your bust. Now I'll be marking a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides, and I'll blend into the initial dart. This 1 inch dart intake that we took out, this 1 inch dart intake, you can replace it at the armhole area, but I left it because this is an halter neck. When you blend out that side, you're still going to cut out that part, so you might not have need for replacing it. Start inserting my measurements. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Now I will replace that dart intake of 1 inch at the side and add my sewing allowance. This is the dart intake of ½ inch on both sides at the armhole. At the waist, I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and I'll go ahead to replace it and add my sewing allowance. At the lower part, I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4, then go ahead to measure this dart intake we have here, replace it, and then add your sewing allowance. So for this pattern, I'm not using my actual measurement, so I might not be replacing the actual measurement of the dart. Now go ahead to connect your pattern, and after connecting, this is what you have. The next step you're going to take, is to go ahead to place your tape, and you're going to come up by 2 inches from the hemline. So after that, you're going to blend out from this side all the way to the lower parts. So after that, you're going to go ahead to come down by 1.5 inches here, go in by ½ inch, and you're going to go ahead to connect this and then blend here out and outline the button allowance area. Now decide how deep you want the neckline to be, and you're going to connect from the neckline to that point to create that deep plunging neckline, and mark out your button allowance. Here I'll be using 1.5 inches. I'll go ahead to connect it. So when I was connecting, my camera stopped recording and I didn't notice. So all you have to do is connect from this part and then connect it towards the armhole of your pattern. So after connecting that, at that point, I went ahead to cut out the darts, and this is what I have. Now that at the upper part we have an halter neckline which extended all the way to the back neckline of this dress. What you're going to do is to go ahead to add an extension to the upper part of your neckline. This extension can be from 3.5 to 4 inches, and this is what you're going to have, and you're going to go ahead to connect this. Now if you feel the 4 inches might be too small, you can use 4.5. Now this is what we have for the back, for the front pattern of this dress, and you can now create the halter neckline that you have for the dress. So next we'll go ahead to draft out that of the back pattern. Now to drop the back pattern, I'll be cutting it in a dartless pattern. Here is the shoulder measurement, and I marked a basic neckline of 3 by 1 inch. Here is the shoulder to bust waist, and I added additional 7 inches for the blouse length, right? So note, we are marking or drafting this in an illustration form, so I'm just actually mentioning the original measurements. The chest line, I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4, add the sewing allowance. At the waist, I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, and at this point at the blouse length, I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and also add the sewing allowance, and I'll go ahead to connect from that point to the blouse length. I'll connect to the blouse length of this dress. So after marking that, I'll go ahead to come up at the lower part just like we did for the front, and I'll connect. Now I'll go ahead to mark out the chest line area, right? I'm going to cut it out because it's a backless pattern and you'll be cutting this on fold for the back. So after I'm done cutting out, this is what we have for this pattern.